Hi, I want to just help you to recognize that GAD, Generalized Anxiety Disorder, is a problem that often feels like unfixable. It feels like it's insurmountable. It's not something that you can ever get over. And unless you do something positive and constructive, it is difficult to get over, and it will not change because there's no reason for it to change. So I find that it's really helpful and it's really worth spending some time thinking about the mindset that you have, that you bring to this problem, okay? So you may have seen the video where I talk about all or nothing thinking. GAD is an all or nothing disorder a lot of times, and people who struggle with it tend to think a little bit in the all or nothing way. It's black or it's white, okay? So the first thing we have to do is we have to develop a progressive mindset where we can get a little bit better, but that's not everything. You have it a little bit better as an improvement, and then we can get a little bit better again and a little bit better again. So we develop a progressive mindset. GAD is a problem which is entirely solvable if we develop a progressive mindset. It is not at all solvable if we go, it's all or nothing. This hasn't fixed it completely, I still feel a bit anxious, so that is rubbish. Okay? So you have to develop a progressive mindset. That's the rule number one. You may have heard me talk about the two realities, but let me just brief you about them. One is external reality, which is the external world, and the second one is internal reality. Now, GAD is a problem which exists where? External reality or internal reality? The answer is internal reality. Why and where do you try to solve the problem of GAD? In external reality. You try to control external reality. If you're using reassurance, for instance, to manage your intolerance of uncertainty, then you're seeking reassurance in the external world. If you're using one of the maladaptive control strategies, where you're procrastinating, where you're checking everything lots and lots of times, you're using a control strategy in the external world. Your problem is in the internal world. Therefore, we have to start applying internal world solutions. You cannot solve problems of GAD with external world solutions. And also, by the way, you can't solve problems of GAD with medications. Medications are simply a management strategy. They're not a cure. They're not a treatment. Now, I was listening to, I was on a forum recently, and someone said, is there any cure for anxiety? And there were 28 comments, and every one of those comments suggested using marijuana, which, well, it's a management strategy, right? The thing is, that management strategy is a tricky one, and I'm not suggesting, I don't have an issue with medications per se. I'm just saying they're not a resolution. They will not cure your problem. They'll just make it more manageable. But a management strategy like marijuana, can you drive? Can you work machinery? Can you hold on a job? Can you manage to have a full life? Or in fact, are you restricted in some respects? So does the treatment that you're engaging in, or the management strategy you're engaging in, does it actually limit your life further? Although you don't feel anxious so much. The anxiety is manageable. Okay, the alternative, self-help CBT, is actually get rid of the whole problem altogether by using an internal world strategy. Own your own faulty thinking processes. Own all or nothing. Own black and white. Own perfectionism. Own these strategies that keep you stuck, and recognize them, and recognize them in action so you can do something about them, right? Do not allow habits of thought which have created your problems to persist. Stamp on them, cut them, move on from them, recognize them and discharge them. GAD and all anxiety disorders have a strong emotional, well, they're emotional problems, but they give you a strong emotional boost. They give you a strong emotional feeling. And what happens is that over time, that becomes the thing which takes control over you, right? So you organize your life avoiding having an anxiety emotional response. The thing is, you are where you are on your life journey, and we have to recognize that from this moment forward, if you're going to take a progressive treatment path, you're still going to feel some anxiety until we move out of it. And it could last for, weeks or months. The point is, are we moving in the right direction? You cannot allow the feeling of anxiety to be in charge of you. You've got to go, okay, I'm anxious, but I'm moving forward. I feel anxious, but I'm moving forward. I feel anxious, but I know it's just the habit of physiology, but I'm moving forward, right? You've got to own your progress. You've got to own your journey. Then you can't say, I can't do things because I'm anxious. I can't do this because I'm anxious. I can't do that because I'm anxious. Because that is allowing anxiety to win. And if you reinforce the anxiety by allowing it to win, it only gets stronger. So in principle, you have to decide whether you want to be rid of this thing or whether you're just going to manage it. Recognize that anxiety is a psychological problem and therefore requires a psychological solution. And so any solution which is not psychological is only a management strategy. Recognize that any journey, and particularly psychological journeys, have a sawtooth shape. They go up and down, which basically means sometimes you feel better, sometimes you feel worse. It looks like this. You would expect, if you had a broken leg, for instance, for your progress to more or less look like that. But I tell this to all of my clients, and you'll see it if you join Anxiety Wizards, etc. Psychological progress always looks like this. So you start here, and you have a boost because you're on the journey, and then you get to there. But then you have some form of setback, or you feel something strongly, and you think, oh gosh, I've gone back to square one. But actually, you haven't gone back to square one. You've simply had a slight setback. But then you go up again. But then you go down again. And you say, oh no, I've gone back to square one. But you haven't got back to square one. And you go up again. Oh, and you go down again. Oh, I've gone back to square one. You haven't got back to square one. Progress is never smooth. And you have to recognize this. It is inevitable that if you get on the journey, if you're actually going to get on the journey to change your life, you will have this shape. And if you recognize and own the fact that, okay, I don't feel so good today, but you know what, I'm still on the journey, then that's fine. But going, oh well, I might as well give up, which would be all or nothing, black and white thinking, right? Then I'm afraid it's not going to work. So this is the progressive mindset. It's the only mindset that will enable you to take the journey and move out of this thing. Anything else, and I'm afraid you're going to end up feeling stuck and not getting the progress you could have.